It's disappointing, sure.
The news rocking Capitol Hill. The House Majority Leader loses his seat. What it means going forward. U.S. bishops stand up for marriage. We're in New Orleans tonight covering their spring meeting. Mosul under attack. How violence in Iraq is devastating residents. Plus, the Pope is back in public after taking a couple of days off. What he's up to today. Those stories and more on EWTN News Nightly for Wednesday, June 11th, 2014.
Now, while I intend to serve out my term as a member of Congress from the 7th District of Virginia, effective July 31st, I will be stepping down as Majority Leader.
We begin tonight with a powerful political shakeup that led to the announcement you just heard from House Majority Leader Eric Cantor. He lost his state's primary to a little-known Tea Party candidate yesterday. Here are the election results from Virginia's Republican primary. David Brat gets 56% of the vote, 12% more than incumbent Eric Cantor. We're going to have more about Dave Brat in just a minute. But first, this is the morning paper from Eric Cantor's district. The headline is simple: Cantor out. Now, pundits are wondering, how does a political newcomer pull off such a big upset?
I want to give thanks endlessly tonight. This is the happiest moment, obviously, of my life. And I owe it to all of you in this room, number one. So give yourself a hand.
While Tea Party forces are rejoicing, the Republican Party establishment is somber or silent tonight in the wake of Cantor's primary defeat. The shocking loss came at the hands of an underfunded challenger who put immigration reform at the center of his campaign. Tea Party-backed Professor David Brat warned the 7-term incumbent supports amnesty for immigrants in this country illegally. It's an issue that has divided the party for years. Cantor himself conceded defeat, telling downcast supporters, quote, "Obviously, we came up short."
Serving as a 7th District Congressman and then having the privilege to be Majority Leader has been one of the highest honors of my life. And, you know, what I set out to do and what the agenda that I have always said we're about is we want to create a Virginia and America that works for everybody.
House Speaker John Boehner praised Cantor as a good friend and a great leader, steering clear of the immigration issue. Meanwhile, Professor Brat called his win a miracle from God. So who is this professor turned politician who toppled the number 2 Republican in Congress? Wyatt Goolsby joins us from Capitol Hill tonight, where a lot of people are talking about Dave Brat today. Wyatt?
Yeah, Brian, as much as the news about Eric Cantor's defeat and now his announcement are still sinking in here at Capitol Hill, it's still fair to say that it's been a day of really members of Congress trying to figure out exactly who David Brat is. As he presented himself during the campaign, he really says that he's a challenger of the Washington establishment.
Instead of following the free market, we followed crony capitalists up in Washington, D.C.
It's fair to say Dave Brat is an outside the beltway kind of guy. The 49-year-old is an economics professor in the Richmond area. While he participated in local and state politics, his win Tuesday in Virginia's 7th District over Eric Cantor is easily his biggest. He anchored his primary battle on staying true to conservative values.
This campaign was about just basic American values and virtues right from the beginning. And the basic premise is power belongs to the people, and that's what we're going to do.
Winning was always a long shot. He raised less than $300,000, while Cantor managed to raise more than $5 million. Many conservative groups didn't back him financially because they didn't think he had the best shot to win. While Brat's victory will give Tea Party members a boost, many say disunity in the Republican Party will continue to be a challenge in the months and years ahead.
We need to focus our efforts as conservatives, as Republicans, on putting forth our conservative solutions so that they can help solve the problems for so many working middle-class families.
Both Republicans and Democrats say that Cantor's defeat means that the House will not pass an immigration reform bill. Dave Brat had been against the same bill Cantor supported.
Hey, Mark.
Are also reacting to Brat's win. I want to read you here a tweet from Congressman Steve Israel, who had said earlier that House Republicans should be terrified of the backlash from the voters who have been alienated by their race to the right. So obviously a whole variety of opinions we're getting here from Capitol Hill this afternoon. Brian.
All right, thank you. Our Wyatt Goolsby on Capitol Hill. Betsy Woodruff is a political writer for the Washington Examiner. You've been following this campaign. Brat has a 23-year-old manager for his campaign, very little campaign money to work with. How did he pull off this upset?
You know, it's a wild story. I think everyone's reaction largely confirms that, and it kind of was a perfect storm for Brat. There's a number of factors that came together in his favor. One big thing is support from, far conservative radio and television personalities. While a lot of major Tea Party and conservative organizations didn't touch the race, Ann Coulter, Laura Ingraham, and Mark Levin were all very vocal Brat supporters. I spoke with Brat's campaign manager last night, and he told me that every time Cantor did something that riled the conservative base, what would follow would be some of these guys would talk about Brat. They'd say, we don't like Cantor, we do like Brat, and every time Brat's name came up, there was a big influx of money. By the end of the campaign, he said they were getting money faster than they could spend it.
So this really puts the Tea Party and the Republican establishment in the spotlight. What does it mean for the Tea Party and the established Republican Party?
Well, it's tricky to say because it's such an unusual situation. I mean, part of this is that Brat, things came together nicely for Brat, but I think a lot of the responsibility also falls on Majority Leader Cantor. He wasn't very present in his district. There weren't a lot of yard signs. He spent a lot of his campaign money on stakes. A lot of this is just sort of an incumbent not doing a great job defending a seat that should have been very easy for him to defend. That same night, Lindsey Graham, who's also favorable of immigration reform, walked away with his primary win under very comparable circumstances to Cantor's.
All right, Brat put immigration reform at the center of his campaign. Let's hear what Nancy Pelosi had to say about what happens to immigration reform.
I've never known Mr. Cantor to be an advocate for immigration reform, so I think this whole thing about it being dead is exaggerated.
Betsy Woodruff, do you think immigration reform is dead?
I think it is for the time being, but that's not new, just because we didn't expect it 2 days ago. 24 hours ago, when nobody knew who David Brat was and Eric Cantor's future was set in stone, we weren't expecting to see any sort of major immigration reform in the coming months.
We'll talk a lot more about this. We appreciate you being with us, Betsy Woodruff from the Washington Examiner.
Thanks.
Some of the other stories we're watching in today's world, our news team has been working on. Details tonight on the deadly school shooting in Oregon. Police say the 15-year-old gunman had an assault rifle, a handgun, and a lot of ammunition that he carried in a duffel bag and guitar case. Authorities haven't been able to find a link between the shooter and the 14-year-old student who was killed in a locker room off the school gym. This happened just 2 days before the school let out for summer. The Defense Secretary faced sharp questioning on Capitol Hill today. Chuck Hagel said it was a tough call to swap 5 Taliban detainees to free American Sergeant Bo Bergdahl. Lawmakers spent hours pressing Hagel for answers. They asked why Congress wasn't notified. They wanted to know if the released Taliban members pose a security risk. Hagel told Congress the deal had become time-sensitive. He said Bergdahl's health and safety were compromised and negotiations with the Taliban were unreliable.
That this was not simply a detainee transfer, but a military operation with very high and complicated risks and a very short window of opportunity that we didn't want to jeopardize.
This was the first public hearing on the controversial prisoner swap. There are likely to be more. Americans are out of Iraq, but the war there rages on. Al-Qaeda-inspired militants have taken control of Tikrit. That's Saddam Hussein's hometown. They've also overrun Mosul. Sunni militants captured the Turkish consulate there and held 48 people, including diplomats and police officers. About 500,000 people are fleeing the city. A Dominican friar stationed in Mosul recently sent out a plea for help. He said the priory of Marbenem and other churches fell into the hands of the rebels this morning, and now they have come and entered Karakosh 5 minutes ago, and we are now surrounded and threatened with death. Pray for us. Iraq's prime minister says the security failure that allowed insurgents to take the town was due to a conspiracy. Well, Ukraine has rejected Russia's offer of a discount for gas shipments. Russian President Vladimir Putin is calling the offer a partnership deal. Russia had threatened to cut off gas supplies unless Ukraine paid its gas bill by Tuesday. Ukrainian leaders call the deal unacceptable. The Ukrainian Prime Minister says Ukraine wants an agreement based on a contract, not the personal attitude of Russia. After talks in Brussels, Russia is extending the deadline and offering the discount until June 16th. Spain's parliament voted overwhelmingly today for legislation allowing King Juan Carlos to abdicate this month. 299 lawmakers approved the legislation, 19 opposed, and 23 abstained. The bill goes to the Senate next week. The king's son, Crown Prince Felipe, is expected to be proclaimed king 2 days later. Juan Carlos, who is now 76, is widely respected for guiding Spain's transition from dictatorship to democracy. After nearly 4 decades, he says he's stepping down to allow fresh royal blood to rally the nation. Well, Pope Francis is back in the public today after a couple of days of rest for a minor illness. The Holy Father looked very well, despite the sweltering 93-degree heat in Rome. Of course, he got very close to the crowd, as he normally does. He greeted them from the Pope-mobile. In fact, one little baby girl was blessed to get a blessing and a kiss from the Holy Father. Concluding his series on the gifts of the Holy Spirit, the Pope focused on fear of the Lord. He also denounced corrupt business practices, human trafficking, and forced child labor.
Che Dio è Padre e che ci ama e vuole la nostra salvezza.
The Holy Father said, God is our Father. He loves us and wants our salvation. He's now 77 years old, and he had to cancel his audiences on Monday because of his illness and then took Tuesday off to get some rest. More challenges for the U.S. economy. Treasury Secretary Jacob Lew says millions of Americans continue to struggle because of high unemployment and slow growth. Lew calls for government and private sector action to encourage investment. He also says the country needs a stronger commitment to education in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and math. Well, twins from Texas celebrated their 18th birthday yesterday, but it's more than a special milestone for these two. Caitlin and Emily Copeland were born conjoined at the liver. Separation surgery allowed them to lead a normal life, and one of the girls says she's very thankful.
And so I think for anyone it's exciting to get to 18, but like in particularly us, I think it's just a very big blessing that we've gotten to 18, considering what could have happened.
The twins are co-valedictorians at their high school. Coming up, unlikely neighbors, a strip club and a convent. The nuns gain an ally in their legal fight to close the club. And a bishop defends traditional marriage values, facing off with same-sex marriage proponents. We appreciate you joining us on this Wednesday evening, June 11th. I'm Brian Patrick, and bishops from across the U.S. are gathered for their spring meeting in New Orleans. Our Jason Calvi is there with them. Jason, what's going on there this evening?
Hey, Brian, the U.S. bishops right now celebrating Mass in this iconic historic cathedral behind me. They're here in the heart of New Orleans for 3 days, several days of meetings, prayer, and discussions. In a city known for its food and jazz music, this is also home of the New Orleans Saints. And this week, the successors of the apostles go marching in. The U.S. Bishops' spring meeting is a time of prayer and fraternity. And the U.S. bishops discuss some of the most pressing issues affecting the church and society.
The family founded on marriage is the fundamental cell of society, as Pope Francis reminds us.
San Francisco Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone rallies the bishops after a series of defeats for traditional marriage. The bishops talked about proactive steps to promote marriage and family. One place to do just that will be the World Meeting of Families in Philadelphia next year.
Especially in times of crisis, we see that without the family, father, mother, children, grandparents and grandchildren, society just couldn't survive.
The big question is, will Pope Francis come to Philly?
But we do have good reasons to believe that Pope Francis will take part in the meeting, and we're planning to welcome him wholeheartedly.
And the bishops got an update on the church's efforts to end sexual abuse.
Recent allegations are somewhere around 21 recent allegations within this reporting year.
Brian, the bishops voted on a number of items in the afternoon. They decided to renew their ad hoc committee for religious liberty for another 3 years. That's going to continue for another 3 years. They also voted to revise their document called Faithful Citizenship. That document is a guide for Catholic voters. Brian?
All right, our Jason Calvi along with Mark Irons reporting from New Orleans, and we'll have more from them tomorrow evening. Meanwhile, in suburban Chicago, religious sisters have been locked in a legal battle with a strip club, which is next door to their convent. This week, the village of Melrose Park, where the convent is located, joined the nuns' lawsuit against Club Allure. The village argues that the state of Illinois bans the construction of adult establishments within 1,000 feet of a house of worship. Peter Breen, an attorney with the Thomas More Society, is joining us from Chicago. The Thomas More Society is litigating the case for the Missionary Sisters of St. Charles Borromeo. Peter, the fact that this case has been going on for so long, it's a battle the nuns have been fighting for years. What does it mean to have Melrose Park get in on this case?
As a legal matter, that's a very helpful thing to have the neighboring municipality come in on the case with, alongside the sisters and the local residents.
So the case involves two neighboring communities, Stone Park and Melrose Park. Does the convent span both of those municipalities?
Yes, and so the convent is partially in Melrose, partially in Stone Park, and the individual residents that we've got in the case who are suing as well are mostly Melrose Park residents, because the village of Stone Park has allowed this to go right up to their border, and so to very much be illegal and inconveniencing and harming the residents who are mostly in Melrose Park, the neighboring municipality.
I'm assuming then that this strip club, Club Allure, is in Stone Park. Is there any support for the club?
Well, it's really been more tacit by the municipality, saying that they can't do anything about it. There had been a bribery lawsuit brought against the village of Stone Park, which they settled quickly with the owners of the strip club, in which they repealed all of their ordinances related to regulation of adult entertainment and allowed the strip club its permits and permissions.
So besides the obvious moral objection from these sisters to having a strip club right next door, what other problems has this club caused for them?
Well, you've got the typical noise in the parking lot, fights breaking out late at night. You've got neon lights that are shining into the neighbors' eyes, and the retired sisters of this community are right there immediately next to the strip club. You've got broken bottles, you've got used, and I don't mean to say this, but used contraceptives. I don't want to scandalize your audience, but there's a lot of negative impacts on the community neighboring this facility.
And on what legal basis are you challenging this?
Well, under Illinois state law, you can't put a strip club within 1,000 feet of a place of worship. And this convent includes numerous places of worship. There are also other places of worship within 1,000 feet. The folks at Stone Park are saying that they think that law is unconstitutional.
All right, so you are defending the sisters. Now Melrose Park is joining in that lawsuit. For people who are not aware of the Thomas More Society, can you give us a quick picture?
Sure. We are a national public interest law firm that exists to restore respect in law for life, marriage, and religious liberty. And this is a unique case. It's not our typical sort of case where we're helping pro-life folks or defending marriage somewhere in the country. But this is certainly within our bailiwick, and we're glad to help the sisters to fight off this facility.
Well, we are looking forward to an update from you, Peter Breen. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Brian.
Meanwhile, the Irish government is launching an investigation into the burial of babies who died decades ago in the homes for unwed mothers run by nuns. Government investigators want to know why so many died, how children were buried, and other possible illegal activities connected with this case. Another commentator, a Catholic commentator, Brendan O'Neill, who edits an online magazine, is firing back. He claims facts have been exaggerated and distorted by anti-Catholic prejudice. Up next, they're packing up and moving to the city. Why people are saying goodbye to the suburbs. And a special experience for a group of students. One tells about the joy of coming face to face with the Pope. watching EWTN News Nightly. We thank you for joining us. I'm Brian Patrick. After 60 years of migrating to the suburbs, the trend in our city seems to be reversing. Susie Pinto reports tonight that many Americans are trading long commutes for neighborhoods where jobs and stores are nearby.
This scenic lakeside cabin outside of Chattanooga, Tennessee, had it all for Spencer McCallie, except location.
Gosh, I would drive for 45 minutes to get there, and then I would drive 45 minutes back.
McCallie is part of a widening group of Americans who are choosing crosswalks over cul-de-sacs.
We're certainly finding that buyers want to be within walking distance to what cities have to offer.
Both empty nesters and new families are driving the demand for urban living, resulting in higher prices. The typical cost of a new home now tops $320,000, 6 times the median U.S. household income. Historically, Americans have bought homes worth about 3 times their income.
Developers have made a conscious choice to build fewer homes but charge higher prices in order to maintain their profit margins.
That's led to developers breaking ground on developments like Base Camp River North in Chicago, where units start at $500,000.
Shorter commutes to work, greater accessibility to restaurants and to shopping and to public transportation.
A new poll by the American Planning Association says roughly 40% of the country still lives in a suburb, but just 7% of those surveyed hope to stay there.
The problem is we've had 60 years of suburban-based construction that is focused on the car, and so we have a mismatch between what people want and between what the market's providing.
McCallie says adjusting to city life has been easy. Backyard strolls have been replaced by short trips to see local performances.
Well, it's great fun. And then after that, we left with 6 other people and ate at one of our favorite restaurants and came home. Would not have done any of that had we lived the 28 miles out.
All part of a dramatic shift toward downtown living. Susie Pinto, EWTN News Nightly.
All right, thank you, Susie. We are just a day away now from the start of the World Cup in Rio de Janeiro, and even now there are concerns about whether Brazil has the infrastructure to support soccer's biggest event. Brazil's president is pushing back, saying his country has risen to the occasion. He hopes fans see Brazil as a good host for the World Cup.
I see more and more the hospitality of the people towards the teams and how happy the people are with the Brazilian team. So that is why I am telling you that we have everything we need to make this the Cup of Cups.
I should have said she hopes. And fans are in for a special treat. World-renowned singer Plácido Domingo will perform a couple of days before the final game of the world. The 73-year-old Domingo made the announcement today. This will be his 6th time performing ahead of the championship. And imagine having your graduation celebration with Pope Francis. 16 graduates from John Paul II High School in Greenville, North Carolina, were at the Pope's general audience today. They came a long way, and their trip has been in the works for a long time.
It was actually the students' idea. They wanted to come to Rome, and they've been planning this for a number of years now. So this is really kind of the culmination of their education and the culmination of their senior year.
It was so amazing. I did not think we would get to see him so close. I thought we were just going to have to wait for hours and see him from a distance, but we got within 10 feet of him. It was so cool. It
is cool, and this is actually footage that the students took with their cell phones during today's audience. By the way, theirs is the first class to graduate from JP2. Well, we're back tomorrow and every weeknight with EWTN News Nightly. Until then, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and watch again anytime you like on EWTN's YouTube page. For all of us here at EWTN News Nightly, I'm Brian Patrick. Thank you for watching tonight. Good night and God bless you.